Good evening, welcome back. We've been taking a rather low volume of calls here tonight, but I've just discovered that there's a fault on some of our lines here, so it's been much more difficult than usual to get through. I'm very sorry about that. We'll be giving you all the relevant local numbers at the end of the programme. Having said that, there have been some promising pieces of information on several of our cases, and by far the best response of the evening has been on the assault on the two little boys in Lytham in Lancashire.
We'll come to that in just a moment. Let's start with the murder of Lee Parsons, a masseuse who worked in Camden Town in North London and who was murdered in her car in Epping Forest. Witnesses remember a black saloon car outside her house in Free and Barnet, saw her escorted to her own Golf GTI, and noticed two men waiting by the roadside near where her body was discovered. Harvey, I know a disappointing number of people managed actually to get through, but one caller in particular might have given you a motive.
One call indeed, yeah. A lady rang in earlier. She obviously knew Lee, and she's given us some interesting information about a possible motive. She obviously wants to help, but she hasn't left a name. Now, if she could ring back, even if she's not willing to leave her name, she might just lead us to other people who would know something about what she's told us.
You've got nothing to go on what she's given you so far?
As it stands, it's interesting, but not enough.
Right.
I'd be very interested to hear from other people.
You need her to lead you to other people?
I do.
OK. Now, you did get quite a number of calls about crossbows. Lee
yes.
was killed with crossbow bolts, you're pretty sure, from a very powerful crossbow, not a handheld one.
Not a handheld one, it's a very powerful one, and I'm still interested to hear from more people who know of people using crossbows in the North London, Harlow, Essex area.
And quite a number of clients, I gather, from the new experience, Sauna and Evershot Street in Camden.
Quite a few of
them. Who knew her as Debbie?
Who knew her as Debbie. Quite a few have come through, and I'm looking forward to hearing more of them.
OK, thank you, Sue.
Well, to find out what information's been coming through on our first file of photocall faces, David Hatcher, we already got some news on the man wanted for questioning by the Central Check Squad.
Yes, but we only had 7 calls, but one of those calls has identified the man. We're pretty sure that's correct, and we believe he's possibly in West London because there have been several connections mentioned with Ruislip, and officers are making inquiries there now.
Right. And Manchester Police were looking for a building society robber with a briefcase and wearing a suit.
Yeah, we called him our professional-looking man. Well, we've had one call to the studio. A lady thinks she bumped into him as he was picking up a cheque card in the street. But Manchester have had more calls, and they've got one very promising lead.
Right. What about Derek Billinge or Derek Thompson?
Yes, we've had possible sightings in the south of England, but we still need an address for him.
And finally, the man who tried but failed to rob a bank in South East London.
Right, this definitely is good news. We had 12 calls, 6 of them gave the same name. That man's in custody.
David, thank you.
Now the mystery of Mrs Trevelyan Evans, who disappeared from her shop in Llangollen in North Wales 3 months ago. Not long before she vanished, she was seen standing in a doorway as though she was waiting for a rendezvous. Who was she to meet? Now, John Cook, maybe you knew who she was to meet, or more about him at any rate.
Yes, we do. We've now had confirmation that Mrs Evans was with the mystery man, the middle-aged mystery man, in Gale's Wine Bar, lower down that street, on the Friday evening.
Now, obviously you want more people who know who this man might be, or anybody who was in Llangollen on, what was it, the Saturday the 16th of June, I think?
Saturday the 16th of June, that's right.
Who travelled there, perhaps working in the antiques trade or any other thing. Somebody described him as an insurance salesman, perhaps, or a bank manager even. What else have you had tonight of interest?
Well, generally the response has been quite poor. We've had somewhere in the region of 30 calls. Many of them don't take us any further at all. I think I must re-emphasise this is a murder inquiry, and there are people out there with information who know who this man is, and I would urge them to ring me on the matter.
OK. If you knew Trevelyan Evans, or think you know who the man is, please call us soon.
Well, now, Jackie Hames has been monitoring the calls on our incident desk cases so far. Our first case was that extraordinary raid on Asprey's Jewellers in Mayfair.
Yes. Despite our problems, good response, several leads to be followed up, and we may have traced the source of those unusual gloves that David showed us. And remember, on this case, there is a substantial reward. I'd like to ask people to try and remember the lorry, the one with the steel girder, STW 585W. Somebody must have seen it, so where was it between the 28th of June and the 16th of July? And also that red Escort B598BGO, again, where was it between the 5th and the 16th of July this year?
Right, remember there's a substantial reward on that. Our second case was the unexplained murder of the 75-year-old taxi driver near Oxford. It was Bletchington he was last seen.
Yes, that's right. On the 13th of June, he drove a blue Ford Granada, clearly marked as a taxi. We'd like to know who flagged him down in Oxford City, and also we'd like to ask people if they were in the Hampton Gay area, if they saw someone who hitched a lift after the incident. So please, anyone rack their memories.
And by the end of our main programme, we'd had some quite promising sounding information on the murder of Baldev Hoendorf at his shop in Hackney in East London.
Yes, they're definitely quality rather than quantity, but we think we've pinpointed the outlets for both the caps that we showed and a good lead on one of the artist's impressions. But officers particularly want to speak to again a person who rang the Steelhouse Lane police station in Birmingham. Please ring again. You may have very important information which the officers wish to discuss. The telephone number is 071 488 6595, so please ring again.
Right, that's 071 488 6595. Jackie, thank you.
Now to our second gallery of faces shown on photocall. David, let's start with Gordon Green.
Yes, that's the man we're looking for. Several calls to Southampton, and we believe he may be in Spain now, and there have been mentioned connections with Marbella. So somebody's going to be lucky to go there, perhaps, to make the inquiries.
Jeffrey Lane, alias John Shaw, there was an inquiry going on about stolen cheques.
Yes, again, low number of calls, only about 7 calls, but we've actually had one just recently from a taxi driver who thinks he's dropped him off this evening, and that address is being checked out right now.
OK, and the Surrey robbers.
Yes, good news there. We had 19 calls. We know the names of all those people in those pictures that we showed you, but sadly they've been the victims of a burglary themselves just a couple of days previously, so that's checked out now. What we want to know is who's been using that grey Ford Sierra, the registration G446YWK. That car was, remember, stolen and being used between April up to April this year, and we want to know who's been in possession of it.
OK, we don't want to know who's driving it now. It's back with its rightful owner.
Right.
David, thanks very much.
Well, finally, the shocking attack on the 2 young boys aged 10 and 11 who were spending a summer Sunday afternoon fishing at Cartmills Pit at Lytham in Lancashire. At about 3:30 on Sunday the 15th of July, a man with a bicycle called out to them.
Have you seen 2 lads?
No.
A few minutes later, the man returned. He sexually assaulted both boys and tried to strangle them. One of them was thrown into the water. Mr. Hackey, I know you've had quite a good response on this.
Yes, I'm very pleased with the response we've had. We've had well over 150 calls to the various incident rooms, some of them with some information that's very promising indeed. We've got a good line of inquiry into the beige car that was seen in the field at the time, so hopefully that will prove productive. Some of the calls have given names of people that we need to look at and look at in some depth.
Everything hinges, of course, on recognising the description of the man. So if we could have that again.
Yes, the boys described the man as 5'9" to 6 foot tall, late 20s or in his 30s. He had short, dark hair. He was wearing an earring in his left ear, and the most prominent thing about him, he had the spots or a rash or some skin complaint around his chin and his cheeks. He was wearing a blue t-shirt, blue jeans, and he was smoking a cigarette that he took from a gold packet while he was talking to the boys.
Well, I hope we find him. Thank you very much, Mr. Hackey.
And that's it for this month. Once again, let me apologise about the problems we've had with the new telephone number. Clearly, many of the lines haven't been working. People have phoned in, have got a buzz on the lines, been unable to get through. More numbers coming right up. Do please join us in a month from now. In the meantime, do remember, crime is not as bad as this programme sometimes makes it seem. Far from it. Don't have nightmares. Do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.